Normandy is where it began. After my father died, I took a motorcycle ride on about the third Triumph Speed triple bar I'd owned by that time. And Normandy is a beautiful part of France, and the beaches that stretch along the coastline as you pass through the towns of Ouistreham, Luxembourg, Léon-sur-Mer, Arromanches, Colville, Verville, and Les Madeleines are clean and inviting. I swam at some of them and I stood in the sea looking towards the town of Léon-sur-Mer, which is in the area designated as Sword Beach, which ran from around Ouistreham to Luxembourg where the British landed. I looked at the curious but darkly beautiful houses drawn back from the beach, and I thought about what it was like advancing up the beach on D-Day. Despite so many narratives being about Omaha and Utah beaches, Sword was also strongly defended, and there was a lot of fighting to get off the beach. But on this day, the tranquility was now only disturbed by early morning joggers, walkers, cyclists, and me, the solitary swimmer. My father landed with the 11th Hussars on D-Day, but as the Allies landed on Sword Beach, once on the land he was helping to pull the pontoons off a landing bridge that had been put there for scout vehicles, and suddenly one of them came out of the sand a bit more quickly than anyone expected and broke his thigh. It was a bad break, so he spent the next few weeks recovering back in England, which is when he met my mother during his rehabilitation. So but for that stroke of fate, I may not even have been standing on the beach that day. The more westerly points of Normandy are not so tranquil, and that's because a major tourist industry had grown up around the Band of Brothers TV series, certainly when I was there. So around the D-Day landings of Omaha and Utah beaches, one would convince ourselves that the Americans fought the Germans single-handedly. There are so many museums, manufactured sites of interest, cinematic events, and reenactors in US military gear. It's overwhelming, especially at somewhere it is. That I'm not criticizing the television series Band of Brothers. I think it's very great. But the beaches of Normandy seem so mutually referential to the Band of Brothers that I'm sure that those who do not know much seem to think of it as a theme park for the CV series. You could buy the Snipe souvenirs everywhere, and of course the Band of Brothers commemorative edition DVD was of course on sale. But I wonder, is that how we remember? Is that a form of public commemoration that is acceptable to us? The living, while statues and cenotaphs are not. Maybe tourism is an agent of commemoration, a means of ensuring that we, the living, do not forget history. But do we always want to remember? Are there some dirty little conflicts that we don't want to talk about, we don't want to discuss, or we find it difficult to tell the truth about? Belfast. Who was sitting there watching Smithy smoke a joint as he lay on his pit. I got the dope from a girl back home. She sent me dope. My mother and father sent me the local newspaper. Leisure centre hosts flower arranging debacle, that kind of thing. We used to read it sometimes. I suppose it was comforting to know that the world, however meaningless, carried on even if we weren't in it. The smoke was drifting and curling, and we were philosophizing as the night wore on. In the weeks before we went to Belfast, we had lost 3 soldiers to accidents, suicide, and stupidity. The soldier had stolen the Land Rover and driven it into a lake when he was drunk. Another lad, whose name I can't remember, was found dead at the bottom of some back street steps in the city. The Death Regiment was a name we'd started to hear being mused about us. These days, I think those deaths happened because we were going to Milan. We give up part of our morality to go to war. We accept what the army gives us as our morality, our sense of right and wrong. It allows us to survive. It allows us to kill. But for some people, that the loss of self is too difficult to bear. So he passed me the joint. Fubar. I gave the joint back to Smithy. He takes it and he says, "This is a man." And he played Highway for Hell for the 12th time. He was from Warsaw, and whenever he got stoned, he tried to tell me AC/DC were from Warsaw too. We were in Flag Street, living in the dirty little war that no one wants to talk about today, in case they offend Jerry Adams. As the smoke drifted and curled its way into every corner of the room, and AC/DC were playing the Highway to Hell, it all made a pattern in my brain that I know I'll never erase. That room, that music, that city with street names, whose herring snatches me back 40 years in a moment. Smithy was rambling about his days as a dog ambler, a bong-sniffing dog ambler. He says, "I loved it, because he was like me and the dog. And, we had this thing as partnership. Any time of day or night we got call-outs. I had a phone in me room. It was like I was Batman or someone. Even with all the crap things we had to do, it was as if the dog, he was a dog and I must be a man. Do you know what I mean?" And I said, "I don't know what you mean. All I know is that I've been carrying that fucking gun for the last 6 months and miles and humping the fucking hammer